right then, well, welcome to another review from Exhaust Sports Auto. Got a little special treat here for you guys, a little Porsche 911. It's a 01 996 generation with 77,000 miles on it. So once again, special thank you to Cary Imports for allowing me to do this review on this very special car. It's actually the first time I've ever even driven a Porsche, so it's interesting to see what this bad boy is all about. Not bad. Okay, give it a little something. I'm still trying to, get a little bit used to it because it's a, manual car, obviously. So, got to get used to this gearbox and all this. But I guess I'll first of all, 996, probably the most hated generation of Porsches, basically 911s. I'm not gonna lie. When I was growing up, I didn't really like this car that much either. But there's always this thing about Porsches where people absolutely love them, almost like a Lexus, honestly. There's just such a following for these vehicles, and today I'm just trying to see what it's all about, because at one point I did actually consider buying a Porsche, like a used one like this. It's going to be interesting to see how this is going to drive to me. I mean, first impressions though, like a couple of things that I want to check out first is like the creaks and rattles, how well this thing has aged pretty much. There's a lot of unanswered questions with this thing basically. But now that I'm at this red light, I guess I'll talk to you about a few things. So people don't really like this car because it switched from an air-cooled design to a water-cooled design, basically. So obviously, trolls even back in the 90s, you know what I'm saying? Wasn't a huge fan, but Porsche didn't really care. I mean, they're just trying to basically, I guess, I don't know, do something different. Not bad at all. Okay, gave it a little something there. Did a little heel toe and a little downshift action there. I'm not gonna lie, this clutch is really weird to get used to. It's a very ambiguous clutch pedal here, and this this shifter here a bit wobbly, but honestly, it's pretty good otherwise. Honestly, I got used to it pretty quickly, so that's pretty good. And there is, this is a very bare bones vehicle. Well, it's not bare bones in terms of options, but I mean, like, this is like a type of car that you just cannot buy today unless you can get like a Nissan 370Z. But this is a very old school basic vehicle. It only has the things that you need and no nonsense, basically. This is a hydraulic steering system, and dude, this thing reacts like on a dime, dude. Like, it's crazy. And there's a fantastic feedback coming from the steering wheel as well, so that's great. The brakes, they don't give you all the bite up front. Obviously, this is a very old school design vehicle, so it's a lot of things that you need to get used to with this vehicle, which is why I'm taking a slightly different path here from what I usually do. I'm trying to get a little bit used to this vehicle, and it's something that it's very easy to drive because it's very easy to see out of this thing, except for when you're reversing out of a tight spot. This convertible top here gets a little fussy to deal with. You can't always see everything from back there, but other than that, this is a very easy car to drive. Yeah, the clutch is definitely like very high up. I haven't like stalled this car yet, or I don't think I ever will, but I'm just saying, you just got to be very gentle with a manual car when you first get into it. Yeah, like this thing it's very quick actually. I wasn't expecting it to be this fast actually. There's actually even a digital speedometer in front of me, which I find pretty interesting. This is such a raw feeling car, man. I really like this thing. This is very I don't know, man. It's just different. There's a certain balance to it, a certain poise to it, I guess. It rides pretty well actually. There's a great sense of confidence piloting this vehicle, even over some of this rough pavement here. It's performing extremely well. just a couple of things you had to get used to, but it's almost like Lexus levels of quality in here. Nothing's actually like really creaking or rattling in here. It's just that when you get off that line, it's just a little different. This thing, it's a screamer too, honestly. It sounds very good. I've heard the air-cooled cars, and they do sound very, very cool, honestly, very different. I can see why people, you know, I guess in the 90s were kind of upset that they changed over to this, but it sounds very awesome. Everything feels very, very natural. Like, nothing feels like digitalized, obviously. It doesn't feel unnatural to you. No, it's not like riding around in a little cloud or anything like that. It's very much like a Miata-like experience, except it's German, of course. I mean, it's there's a great tactile feel to just about everything in this drive. I think, yeah, the steering is definitely one of my most favorite things about this vehicle. I'm about to test out the handling in a little bit, but I'll give you another reason why buying this car is never going to be a bad option, is because these things are always going to be desirable. I mean, brand new, these things cost a fortune, well over $100,000 if you want to get even a base one the way that you wanted it. So obviously for poor people like me, that's not an option. But these used vehicles, you can definitely justify it. And, you know, a lot of people I was talking to that, you know, they're Porsche enthusiasts, they're always going to say this, but they said that they've never actually had any issues with their 911s, especially from this generation and stuff like that. This is the four-wheel drive model, so there's also that. That's why there's so much grip with this thing. There's like 265 wide tires in the back, so that's pretty beefy. But like I was saying, these things are always going to be desirable. They're always going to maintain their value. They're always just going to hold it extremely well. So you could buy this thing, you're never really going to lose. In some cases, I had a friend who, back in Texas, he bought a Cayman, actually, Porsche Cayman, and he actually flipped it for more money. So that's very, very cool. I'm not saying you could probably do that with this, but I'm just, you know, anything's possible. Like, people always say, like, these things might go up in value and stuff. Oh yeah, no, this thing gets off the line extremely well. I don't know what the 0 to 60 times are with these vehicles, but very awesome to drive this thing. I just wish that, you know, I don't know if there's something wrong with this gear shifter, but it feels a little funky to me. But again, nothing that you can't really not get used to with it. But regardless, this thing sticks like glue onto the pavement. I haven't had a bit of tire chirp coming out of this thing. Feels absolutely fantastic. So, oh my gosh, yeah, this thing with the 4x with the all-wheel drive system, superb. I will say though, I hate the turn signal thing. It doesn't automatically turn off by itself. You have to actually turn it off yourself, which really sucks. But small cost to be a boss, right? This car never really gets sideways on me, and it's really easy to drive this thing. I think I've said that multiple times already, but driving this thing on the streets, it's a ton of fun because you're never really worried about killing yourself. You know, I think back in the day, you know, the old like air-cooled 911s, there's a bit of a problem with you know, this thing getting a little out of hand, I guess, with the rear end. But I think this thing with the all-wheel drive system, grip's fantastic, and everything works well in here. There's a few like creaks in the back here, but honestly not too bad. This car has held up extremely well. I'm gonna show you in the interior segment in a bit that no, this is I can see why these things hold their value and why people covet these things so much, because they do genuinely drive extremely well. Yeah, there's always a sensation that this car is kind of like pushing you out of the corners because of that rear engine design. Yeah, I think whoever's going to buy this thing, you're going to have an absolute blast with it. And at 77,000 miles, I'm very pleased at how this thing has held up over the years. You know, this is a pretty old car, 01, so very nice to see just these cars when you buy them, you don't have to be too scared about it. I can see, you know, people not having too many issues with it. And our thing is these things tend to get pretty decent gas mileage too, actually, which is a nice thing. But yeah, that engine sound is very unique. It handles so well. And it's actually not even a double wishbone setup with these things, despite the cost of it. It's actually just a strut-based suspension, and it still handles this well. A lot of that has to do with the fact that packaging, it's a rear engine design, so they wanted a lot of space in the trunk up front. So that's kind of why they went with a strut-based suspension up front. But regardless, I absolutely enjoyed my time with it and driving this thing. It was a true treat to drive basically my first Porsche. It was very cool. So really appreciate Cary Imports for giving me this very awesome opportunity to drive this car. So let's go ahead, let's take a look at that interior now. So you join me inside of the 911 996 interior. So let's go through a couple of these things. I'll talk about the steering wheel first. It's kind of a thin rimmed steering wheel, and it's I actually really like it. And obviously I said during the drive that I love the steering feel of it. There's actually like no buttons on here, none of that stuff. So it's a very focused steering wheel. Nothing to control your your audio and stuff like that from. Just a nice steering wheel, good size. I really like it. Of course, Porsche emblem right there. That's the most important thing about it, of course. And these seats, they're actually I don't even know like how to describe these seats. They're just seats, you know what I mean? They don't bolster you in like crazy. They're decently comfortable for a sports car. I mean, this whole cabin is like a Miata, except like more comfortable and like faster, basically. I mean, that's kind of what this car is. I really like it. It's got like this Porsche embossed on the headrest here. It's kind of like this one-piece design. There's no like adjustable headrest, which I really like. I think it's a cool design. So I do like that. And electronically adjustable, which is great. And you have three-way memory seats, which is fantastic. And the leather quality itself has held up pretty well also. A couple of wrinkles, of course, but that's to be expected. I mean, it's an older vehicle, but the overall design of it is like that roushed leather, whatever you want to call it. So that's kind of how it was. I bet back in the early 2000s, I was like the option to get maybe ruched leather, kind of like the design. But yeah, I mean, it's a really nice seat. Also, I mean, everything just works in here. Like nothing is broken. There's no stupid check engine lights. Everything still works as it's supposed to. Even the top here, this is actually like electronically controlled. It's not like a Miata where you just tear it open yourself. And because that's what I thought you were supposed to do. I was like reaching back there. I was like, how do you get this stupid thing out? Because I want to, film with the top up so I can preserve the audio. But it's actually, you press that button and it does it itself. And it's actually like relatively quick for what it is. It latches itself. It's very impressive actually, and still works just fine. Another thing, these window switches are actually right here in the center. Actually, German car's got to be different. It's got to be a little bit bougie, right? It's kind of weird actually, and it doesn't really even open that fast. Like it's actually kind of slow to open and close. Just kind of weird. Even when you put the top up and stuff, when it automatically puts the windows up, it's a little bit slow to open. But it is what it is. It's not too bad. I also, strangely enough, I really like the mats that they put in here. It's like perfectly made for this car, and it's like a really slick kind of design. It's like a rubber mat, and it's really cool. I don't know, it's got like this honeycomb, like hexagon design to it. I just think it's very cool. And I was mentioning this kind of in the driving segment. This whole like center stack here is very like simplistic. There's nothing complicated or crazy going on. Your entire climate control system is completely separated from your, you have no infotainment. So it's just a whole separate thing, all on its own. It shows you your temperature, your fan speed, all that stuff. You even have heated seats for both these seats right here, which is fantastic. And your cup holders, this is it. I mean, that's pretty putrid, honestly. Your drinks are just going to fly right off of that if you take a corner at any kind of speed in here. So there is that. And, you have your little 6-CD changer up front there, and you operate your little Porsche CR220 coated radio system right here, which is funny. And you have your light controls right here, and actually you put your key right here as well, like a traditional Porsche thing. They also do everything backwards because you're better when you're in a Porsche, basically. Another thing I really like, this gauge cluster is absolutely fantastic. It's like that white chrono thing. I don't know what Porsche calls it, but it is fantastic, so legible. You got the tach right dead in the center. I love that so much. 175 on the dash, and right here, got your little gear shifter, 6-speed manual transmission. It's it works pretty well, but it's just something about it feels kind of like loose and kind of strange. It's not broken obviously because it gets into gear just fine, but it's just something to note, I guess. It reverses all the way to the left here, so there is that. Of course, you have your Porsche, handbrake right here. Porsche says it right on there. And, there's no real like interior cubby spaces in here, honestly. Like there's not even a glove box in here. There's just an airbag. And right here on the door pockets here, you don't really have much space here. I mean, I did finagle my little water bottle in here though, which is interesting, but there you go, not too much space. The leather has held up extremely well, and so have these handles and all that good stuff. I mean, this whole thing, there's really minimal creaks and rattles. Just one little thing I heard in the back kind of rattling when I went over a few bumps here and there, but overall, this is held up almost like a Lexus, honestly, and I'm thoroughly impressed with Porsche quality. Basically, it's definitely a go. Buy one of these things used. It's already depreciated a lot, and it's going to hold a lot of its value. You may even see some appreciation with these things actually, because it's a manual Porsche. Those are always going to be in demand. And I didn't really mention this, but it's actually surprisingly easy to get in and out of this thing, despite being a fairly low slung sports car. So that's really great if you're a little bit older, I guess, and you may have some back issues or something like that. It's actually not impossible to contort your body in a way to get inside here, so that's really fantastic. The boot space, obviously it's in the front. You're a big baller in this Porsche, so engine is in the back, and you got the boot space up front, so you got a frunk, basically. You can use that term when you're piloting this vehicle. It's got a decent amount of space. Actually, the most practical Porsche you can probably buy is actually the Cayman, because it's got the engine in the middle, and it's got a hatchback in the rear, and you have the front trunk space as well. So that's kind of the reason why they went with the strut-based suspension. I kind of mentioned that in the review, the driving segment. So that's kind of why they did that, so you can actually get a pretty reasonable sized trunk in the front. I think the newer ones even have a larger trunk space, so that's pretty nice to see. And that engine, I kind of popped it open a little bit. Obviously you can't see really anything in there. You can just see a fan basically, and that's about it. So that's pretty much the entire interior segment. Let's go ahead and let's get into the conclusions now. Got a little sideways action going on here for you. Yeah, sorry about that. And reason why I'm not doing this outside is because there's always a train running by here, so I just want to preserve some of that audio. So you have to deal with this little crooked angle here. But despite that, concluding thoughts on the 996 2001 Porsche 911 Carrera 4. Fantastic car. I mean, I kind of knew that going into it, and I think the hype that these Porsche cars have, like the pure love that these cars get, it's pretty much justified. It to this day, with 77,000 miles, it drives fantastic. It's got a fantastic chassis to it that just complements a car, the steering, the power, all of it so well. And this is kind of like that base engine too, and it gets up to speed extremely well. And I think a lot of people are going to be able to appreciate that. I mean, like 300 horsepower, it's nothing to play around with, I guess, right? That rear engine design, very unique, of course, to Porsche, and it's nice. It's almost like it's pushing you through the corners. It really inspires to be driven, and it sounds fantastic too, actually. That flat six engine, I guess, a really unique engine, one that's it's just very cool to experience, honestly, and to listen to and to kind of rev it out. And these manual transmissions, definitely the way to go to really experience and really be one with the Porsche, I guess. You know what I mean? I think the next generation, 997, that's kind of when they came out with the PDK, and that's cool. Definitely faster cars, but this analog experience is what you're going to get with the 996. I understand not many people are huge fans of the way this thing looked, but honestly, I think it's aged pretty well. 911, pretty classic design. It's just the headlights that kind of look a little funny, but otherwise, I think the design of this is really clean. It's got like this nice, soft, swoopy lines. It's very, very cool. Really, nothing else looks like it. Basically, you can make the Beetle jokes all day long, but this is far larger than a Beetle. And speaking of large, I mean, like, you can be a giant and really fit in these cars. I know it's not relevant to this particular vehicle, but a friend of mine, Seagar Speed 252, his name's Clarence, has his own YouTube channel, basically, does a bunch of Corvette videos, but he actually checked out a 911 Turbo, like a new one, like a 2018, I guess, and he's 6'2". He has more space in that 911 than he does in his Corvette, his C7 Grand Sport, which is interesting. And yeah, I can kind of see that, because even in this model, you can really be a giant and fit in these things. And I have plenty of headroom. I have the seat actually all the way back for this filming purpose, but you can be like, I don't know, like 6.5 feet tall, I assume, and be able to fit in these cars, no real issue. So that's really nice. So lots of great adjustability. Like I said, very easy to get in and out of this thing for a sports car, so I like that. Easy car to drive for the most part, actually. It's just like you got that one little blind spot on the back because the you know, that top right there. But what's interesting about this model is that Cary Imports actually has the hard top thing to go along with it, like the color match thing, you know what I'm talking about. So if you're gonna keep this outside, it's pretty nice. So overall, man, this has been a fantastic driving experience. You're really not going to get anything like this with a newer car. So if you want, hit up Cary Imports if you want your chance at a manual 996 Porsche with relatively low miles, 77,000. That's really not bad at all. It's a great driving car, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be pretty reliable. But if you want, you can get for like less than $2,700, like 3 years, unlimited miles. You can get a warranty from Cary Imports that covers this car from top to bottom. Really, most of these cars that they sell here. So if you want, you can take advantage of that, and I'll leave all their information down in the description box below. But it's been a true treat to pretty much drive the first Porsche I've ever driven. So really huge shout out to them. I think a lot of people are going to share similar sentiments to mine. So with that, thank you very much for watching. Take care.